Okay, so we are still um, discussing representing relationships in different ways, and we went from um, the equation to a table to a graph. Okay, now we're going to go straight from the equation to the graph without the table. Okay, so this will save time and effort. Okay, so we're going to start by drawing a straight line graphs from the equations using 2 points. Okay, so we're only focusing on line graphs at the moment. Alright, so let's use an example. So the relationship between the cost and number of guests is summarized by the equation cost equals 1000 plus 80n. Okay, so this is the example taken from when we planned the 21st party for the brother in the previous lesson. Okay, so we're taking the same equation. Now it says use the equation to draw a graph. So not use the equation to draw a table to draw a graph, just go straight from using the equation to draw a graph, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, so the first step is you're going to use the equation to calculate 2 points. Okay, so let's calculate 2 points. It can be any 2 points, so you can substitute any number. Okay, the easiest to do will be 0, because then we know where it starts, and then any high number. So if we do c is equal to 1000 plus 80, and we substitute in the point 0. Okay, so my input would be 0. So c is equal to 1000 plus 80 times 0. So this will give me 1000. Okay, so I know my first point will be 0. I'm sorry if you hear the hooting. I don't know who's hooting. Okay, so my input will be 0 and my y would be 1000. So remember, this is when you're plotting, this is my x and my y. So my x will be 0 and my y will be 1000. Okay, then if I've got another point, so I need 2 points. So let's put in, let's substitute 50. Okay, so if I have 50 guests, what will my cost be? So it will be 1000 plus 80 times by 50. Okay, so this is 1000 plus 4000. Sorry, guys. 4000, which is 5000. Okay, so I know that my point will be x and y, so it will be 50 and 5000. So I know that 50 guests will give me 5000 total cost, 0 guests will give me 1000. So I only need 2 points to be able to plot this. Okay, then my step 2 is setting up the axis. Okay, so I obviously have my y-axis and I've got an x-axis. Okay, now to determine what's my x and my y, remember I said you've got an independent variable and a dependent variable. Okay, so in this case my total cost will be dependent on how many people come to the birthday. Okay, it's not independent, it's dependent. So I know my c will be my dependent value, which means it will go on my y-axis. So I know it needs to go from 1000, and it needs to end in 5000. Okay, for me to have these 2 points. Okay, then my x-axis, remember I said my x-axis is always independent, and that's true because the number of people doesn't depend on how much the total cost is, it's the other way around. So my x-axis has to go from 0 to 50. Okay, so now I can decide what increments I'm going to put this in. Okay, so maybe this one I'll go in steps of 500, and this one I'll go in steps of 10. So you can decide as long as it's a constant difference. Okay, so if I take this now, let's do that. Okay, so now I need to draw my graph. Okay, so your first step is to take a ruler, and I suggest you do this in pencil because it's going to be trial and error. Sometimes the increments don't work, sometimes it's too big. Okay, so if I've got, let's do it like, there we go, and over here. Okay, so when you're drawing your graph, you have to have a constant difference. So if you decide on 1 centimeter on the x-axis to divide your increments, then you need to use 1 centimeter on your y-axis to divide your increments. Okay, if you use different measurements for your increments, then it becomes very tricky with the graph because it doesn't make the shape that it should. All right, so if I take my y-axis, I said I'm going to go in 500, so let me do it in 1 centimeter increments. So I go, that's 1 centimeter, there's 1 centimeter, okay, so that's 1 centimeter. Now in the x-axis, 1 centimeters. Okay, so this is my y-axis, this is my x-axis. Okay, so I said this is going to go up in 500, so let's see, 500, that's 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 4,500, 5,000. Okay, and that's enough. That was a good guess for me. Okay, so now I start with tens. We decided we're going to do tens increments. Okay, so it goes up in 10. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I only need 50, so I'll just go up to 60. Okay, it's fine if it looks like this. And then label your axis. Okay, so this one was total cost, and this one was your number of guests. Okay, and now I plot the 2 points. Okay, so here we had our 2 points, so I plot my 2 points and then I'm going to link them. Okay, so the first one was 0 and 1,000. So it was 0 and 1,000. Okay, that's where my graph needs to start. Then I had 50 and 5,000. So let me take my ruler, and I've got 5,000. So I know 50 guests will give me a total cost of 5,000. So like that. Okay, then I just draw a line between my 2 points. Okay, so this is if it's direct proportion. Okay, so as the one increases, the other one increases it at a steady rate. Okay, and this is how you draw a straight line graph. Okay, so in the next lesson, we're going to do solving problems using graphs. So I will post an activity for you guys to do just so that you can practice this.